Excuse me. Isn't this a bit premature? All right, now, that's enough. Cut! A space battle? Really? We can wait on that one, okay? Hello. My name is Andy Robinson. I played Garrick on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, which means I know a little something about truth and lies. What we left behind is merely a documentary. And like most documentaries, it consists of stories recalled in memory, fueled by emotion. Now, stories require embellishment. Memory can be faulty, and emotion often obscures clarity. The end result is entertaining, informative, heartfelt. But it is truth as seen through a glass darkly. I'm afraid it's the best we humans can do.
All right, and we're live for the first episode of Priority 1 Transmission. Super cliche, but that's okay. I'm here with Brian Hill, Master of None. You can check his links out down below. How you doing tonight, Brian?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty darn good, now that the stream is actually working.
No worries. We're rocking, man. This is good. We're talking Trek, and that's what I love to do.
Yeah, we are. Question, before we go much further. Is the stream still going?
Yes.
Okay, because I had a notice, and I'm probably going to get this notice a few times this video, so anybody who does watch it should be happy. I got a copyright notice before the intro was even over.
Whoops.
Whoops, I didn't know that was copyrighted. Hey, no, it's fair use. This is going to be like an hour-long stream. It's all fair use. Plus...
we're just discussing the subject matter.
Yeah. My channel's not monetized anyways, so I'm not selling crap to anybody.
There you go.
Okay, so today's episode is going to be on, and this may be a multi-part stream. We may do another stream because we may have a lot to say about this. We're going to be talking about the Deep Space Nine documentary that came out last year, I think, and called What We Left Behind. And spoiler alerts, there are lots and lots of spoilers. Also, there will be a little something extra, as you may have kind of already heard. The original footage from Deep Space Nine was remastered in 4K for the documentary, and I will be replaying some of that footage for you in 1080p on this stream as we go. And hopefully the stream will remain up long enough for you guys to watch it.
It'll be good. You're in for a treat.
Absolutely. So what did you think of the documentary?
Well, on the whole, like I said before, it was an emotional roller coaster. Kind of, I'm always a sucker for that sort of thing. I got really touched by just seeing the lasting impact of the show, the legacy, its effect on the fans, especially the people who were in the show that have recently passed, and passed not too long ago, like Rene Auberjonois, who played Odo, and Aaron Eisenberg, who played Nog. So I mean, that was really, really touching to see them on screen one last time,
and to see how much they love that show. I mean, that cast, as Renee said, like, he'd been in a lot of companies up to his life, or throughout his life. He'd had a very long and very successful acting career, and there was nothing like the Deep Space Nine cast and company and crew, according to him. They
Well,
were
I mean, you
just
could see it in their
yeah.
panels. I mean, there's such a family. I mean, such a tight knit group. I mean, it's really something to see, especially now with the way things entertainment's been going.
Yeah, and the amount of work that they put into that show, like that. Not to get a little off topic, but like that's something that I can't stand about newer shows. Like, you get how many episodes a season? Like between 7 and 12. That's not a
Yeah, and
season.
then it's basically they just shake it up and then scatter fire it at you and whatever sticks, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's not a season. A season is 22 to 26 episodes. That's what a season is. Get
Yeah, full
on.
run. You're talking a mini series at that point.
Yeah. Because yeah, I mean, I guess I just grew up in the age where every TV show that was worth anything and worth its salt was at least 20 episodes a season. You know, Stargate, all of the Star Treks, Battlestar Galactica, all of it.
Yeah, yeah, very much so.
That's my off-topic rant about the current acting and producers being lazy.
No, you'll get no argument there from me. But no, on the other part, I would say, but I wrote down, I was like hashtag woke.
Oh boy.
Not gonna lie, it did that move. This documentary definitely did hit the points, but my defense of that part was that's kind of where I learned some of my wokeness as far as life in general goes. So I mean, I can kind of understand some of it, but trying to tie it in with modern day politics was just like, okay, it was cringy. I couldn't abide that part.
Yeah. I've got the little the little screen up on the stream right now of the checkbox scene, and yeah, that's where they lost me. That's where Ira lost me officially, because like when they got to sexual identity, they just started politically posturing, because this drives me insane, okay? Because Deep Space Nine was hyper progressive about stuff. Like you had the Dax and her old wife episode,
Yeah.
where she was clearly lesbian. You had the Quark being a transgendered female episode. Like, and these are just a couple. Like, there's at least half a dozen to a dozen episodes like this.
That just didn't use a big old stick at the time to beat you to death with it, like they would have today.
Yeah, so when Ira said that they don't get that check mark, honestly, I felt insulted, because they more than got that check mark.
Especially for that time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that we're not considering here. This was the late 90s. You know, that stuff didn't exist.
Or Mirror Universe Kira. Like she was way out there. Like way like hugely feminist in that role. And like not just feminist, but opening your mind to other progressive ideals, like, you know, multiple partners and you know, men, women, whatever. Like, there were so many progressive things on this show, and I feel like of all the people in the world, I would have expected Ira to like be like, yeah, we definitely got that.
No, that was bad Bluebeard.
Yes, very. Like the thing that really gets me, that tells me that whole sexual identity getting a question mark thing was a major political posturing to maybe, you know, be a little bit more on meta with everything else that's going on right now, was that he said that originally he wanted Garrick and Bashir to be gay together. But I don't know about you, I never ever once even got the slightest of that.
No, not at all. And maybe a bisexual vibe, but I mean, it's space, so that's kind of understandable.
I mean, Bashir, maybe. Okay, there was I could have believed Bashir and O'Brien, honestly, before Bashir and Garrick.
Yeah, they were more buddies than, you know, Bashir and Garrick that were. Yeah.
Like that scene where when Bashir and O'Brien are in a runabout, and he gets him, or Bashir gets O'Brien to say that he loves him more than his wife.
Yeah, you love me more than Keiko.
I just prefer
Shut
spending
up.
time with you. Yeah, exactly. See, they could have stretched that direction, but the reason, or the thing that tells me that it was all posturing and all, frankly, a load of BS, is that they had this opportunity to do exactly that. They got together in a writer's room, the core writers of Deep Space Nine, and they wrote season 8, episode 1. All they had to do, if that was really what they originally wanted to do, they had no oversight this time because they weren't publishing it. Like, they could have gone in and they could have said, well, things between Bashir and Ezri didn't work out. Bashir finally figured out he was gay, and then he's leader of Section 31, and he just happens to be in a relationship with the new leader of the Cardassian Union, Garrick.
Like, yeah, I could have dug that. It would have made sense.
If they would have done that, yeah.
Then, no.
Yeah, but if they would have done that, I would 100% believe, Ira, that they wanted to do that originally. But he didn't do that. So I think it's all
revisionism.
I think it's all a load of crap. I think that's not actually what we wanted to do, but it sounds good now.
Of course. Got to score those points with the the whatever fan base they're trying to score points with.
Absolutely.
But it also kind of started out with the emphasizing the strong female characters. Since we're already on the subject, I'm not going to disagree with them. Between Major Kira just being a total badass the whole show, I love Dax as a character. Ezri and Jadzia. Aside from what happened with the actors and stuff like that, that's a relationship I wouldn't have bought either. Where they were talking about Kira and Dukat getting together, I'm like, oh god, no.
Yeah, no.
I think I'd have quit watching.
I'm glad that Nana Visitor stood up for herself there.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, this is totally the footage we're watching. It really did explain. Oh, Chase Masterson, saw her one time. She's cool. She was at the state fair for some sci-fi thing. And
here's
Penny Johnston. Oh yeah.
If you don't take that hand off my hip, you'll never be able to raise a glass with it again.
But Penny Johnson, she's on Orville.
Yeah, yes, she is. Who else has been on that? I haven't been I haven't watched a lot since 6 months ago or 8 months ago.
First season or something like that for me.
So there's been a bunch of other Star Trek actors on, though. I think Tuvok's been on there. Tim Russ. Nice. Yeah, I think he's been on there, and I know at least 2 or 3 others have been on there as well. So it's pretty cool.
Maybe I'll have to give it another look. I didn't like it because I just was like, okay, funny knockoff Star Trek. All right.
Yep, I just got another copyright warning.
Nice.
Half of that didn't even have audio. Come on.
No, and I talked over most of it.
Give me a break. It's not like I'm streaming the movie.
Funny.
But yeah, the women roles in Deep Space Nine were insane. You start off with Kira, who's just, you want to talk about feminism. Jeez. She's the embodiment of the I'm not gonna take anything feminist. She's that person. They get the checkbox, Ira. Come on.
Yeah, no, 100%. Don't even try to gloss over and act like you didn't. But yeah, like I said, but yeah, mostly just I totally got it. the feminism. I mean, half the writing room was, were females at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Jerry Taylor was involved in the show, but there was Mike and Denise Akudo were, and big time. So I mean, and it was good seeing them back at a round table talking. Guys like Ron Moore, Robert Wolf, big guys as far as Star Trek is concerned in the writing room.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was probably one of the best experiences. And if I wanted to do huge spoilers, and we're not going to, if I wanted to do huge spoilers, I would be playing some of that writing room footage. But honestly, that's one of the main reasons to watch the Deep Space Nine doc, honestly. And you can watch it free on Amazon Prime right now. It just has ads. So I encourage you to do that after the stream.
That's good. The ads aren't that bad. They get by quick. That's how I watched it. It was really good.
Yeah, if you watch it on PC on Amazon Prime, you'll see where the ads are, and if you, at the very beginning, you just click where all the ads are, you click on them, and then you let them play, and then you go to the next one, let it play, and then go to the next one and let it play, and then rewind to the beginning, you can watch it without ads. Oh, I mean, you will have watched all the ads, but it won't interrupt you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I should do that. A lot of movies that I could make it better that way.
I found that out when I was not borrowing footage for this stream today.
But it works.
Yeah, CBS, Paramount, if you want to blame someone, blame Amazon.
Yeah, it was their fault. Well, the other part, and kind of transitioning into the next part, it had listening to Armin Shimmerman talk about what it was like to be a Ferengi, mm-hmm. and how long it took for him and Max to get into that makeup, every single time. And I just straight out, being a bigger brother, I really felt the Quark Rom relationship, like 110%. I mean, it was one of my favorite things of the whole show. I mean, anytime you got a Ferengi episode, they were phenomenal. I mean, anything to do with Moogie and the Grand Negasek, who was played by Wallace Shawn, and I swear that man never ages. I mean, he still looks like he did in Princess Bride all those years ago.
Yeah, I think those are some of the reasons why Deep Space Nine is, and this is preface to my next major Deep Space Nine video, is the best Star Trek. Because anybody can relate to something on Deep Space Nine. In TNG, that's not the case. A
little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's really hard to relate, especially with the way they had written with the perfect characters, basically. So I mean, I could definitely get behind saying that Deep Space Nine is the best Star Trek, hands down. I mean, I love it. And that's not just my personal opinion on that one.
Oh yeah, like the Odo and Kira relationship that evolves over like the entire course of the show, I'm pretty sure that there's about 80% of males out there can relate to being there and having feelings for a woman and not wanting to endanger something or not wanting to mess up a friendship or...
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Yeah, like
to not say something too soon or not say nothing at all, we all know that angst.
Yeah, and then to go from that to like Cisco and Jake having that parental and that
father-son.
Yeah. And
well, they kind of talked about how important it was, to show a father figure in that community, which is kind of almost a rare thing. So I think that was really good of Avery Brooks, and the fact that him and Serac are still, like father and son, all these years later it's really saying something.
Yeah, it is. It's like it's crazy that the majority of that cast are all still, a fairly tight knit group. Like,
yeah,
it's not something you see with, like, if you probably no one's watched this, but if you've heard of like a show called Dark Matter or Killjoys or any of the like modern sci-fi shows out there, I guarantee you in 10 years those cast members will probably not even remember each other.
Oh, they've moved on to bigger, better
Yeah.
things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I think Star Trek conventions themselves do a really good job of keeping the family together, so to speak. I know I've been to one. Poster behind me, I got a few autographs from.
Nice.
Michael Dorn being one of them, and I love it that he joined the cast of Deep Space Nine. Really added another level to the cake, as it were.
Yeah, I that there was a part of the documentary that talked about him joining and how like everybody felt like they were fine with him joining. They were not fine with Worf joining because it felt like a big old slap in the face because they were already the black sheep of the family at that point. Like they were
three seasons deep.
Yeah, they were the tweener, series. You had TNG at the start, you had Deep Space Nine, and then you had Voyager starting like 2 or 3 seasons into Deep Space Nine or whatever. So like they were the middle child, and then all of a sudden, the execs are just like, yeah, you need more star power. Boom. Like bring somebody in from TNG. Yeah, that would have made me mad too. Like,
well, no, I totally would be like, wait a minute here. We had something going. We had traction, because, like I said, that's when I came into the show. Was the third, into the second, third season, on into the fourth, which the Way of the Warriors, quite possibly one of the best episodes there is. Especially with the Klingon Wars, and gotta love it when Gowron gets all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of Gowron, I think I should play the guest stars clip, because like the amount of guest stars, like not just guest stars, but reoccurring on call, meaning like we'll get a script and like we'll call you with a day or two's notice, and then you got to come in. The amount of people they had on call like that for just reoccurring guest star roles is insane.
Not only that, but those characters all had somewhat of a character arc. Like they talked about Nog starting off as like just a hoodlum, and next thing you know, he's wearing a Starfleet uniform.
And then next thing you know, the blown off leg, and that's one of the most compelling episodes of the series, is that episode where he's dealing with that.
Yeah, with Vic in the holodeck.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that they got Vic Fontaine back, and oh man, it's so great to.
Now there's a guy who hasn't aged a freaking day.
Yes, he looks just the same as he did when they filmed last.
James Darren, I swear.
What I said to you when we were talking about this before we did it, I was like, I would give anything to go on one of those cruises where it's basically just singing lounge, because that's what they do. Is you go on those Star Trek cruises, half of the later night is them lounge singing.
Mm-hmm.
You could do that with the gold package of a convention too, though. One of the nights they do like a little wine tasting, I guess is the best way to put it. It'd be pretty good to go, especially now that I got my costume.
Yeah, I would love, like, that's the only way I would go on a cruise is if it was the Star Trek cruise. But you ain't getting me to pay $4,500 freaking dollars for a ticket.
No.
That's
no. If it was free.
That's a car. That's a cash car. Like, no.
Yeah. A decent cash car too.
Yeah. I'm gonna play that clip before we get sidetracked.
Don't worry. I have a tendency to do that, so I do apologize ahead of time.
We had a huge recurring cast on Deep Space. There were like 18 or 20 people on hold every week. There was Felicia Bell,
Aaron Eisenberg,
Camille Saviola,
Mark Alimo,
Max Grodenchik,
Mark Allen Shepard,
So
Andrew Robinson,
Rosalind Chow,
Anna Hatay,
Wallace Shawn,
Tiny Ron,
Majel Barrett,
Louise Fletcher,
Philip Anglem,
John Colicos,
Paul Dooley,
Salome Jens,
Kenneth Marshall,
Majel Barrett.
Robert O'Reilly,
Chase Masterson,
Penny Johnson,
Duncan Regehr,
J.G. Hertzler,
Brock Peters,
Casey Biggs,
I like the guy who played Core.
Cecily Adams,
That was
Jerry
cool.
Jenner,
William Sadler,
James
You know,
Darren,
he was the
Deborah
original
Lacey,
actor.
Jeffrey
right?
Combs.
Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah,
Jeffrey
from the original
Combs.
series.
I love the last the last ones. Uh,
But no, they showed
Jeffrey Combs.
Casey
Jeffrey
Biggs.
Combs. Jeffrey Combs.
and then but the character that had such an arc, and we discussed this before too, is Casey Biggs as Damar.
Yeah.
You know, kind of started out as the right-hand man there for a bit, you know, kind of unnoticed by Ducat and unnoticed by us, and then
One line.
basically turns him into the hero,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, they
Well,
turn him
after he
into the
shoots the all,
villain.
you know?
Yeah, they turn him into a massive villain. He's just kind of there as like an extra almost. Like he's one of those extras that's got a one-liner. And then through the Dominion Wars, like they build him up. You start getting to know him a little bit more, his motivations, when they're on Deep Space Nine, the actual station. And then, you know, they make him kill Zial, and you're mortified as a viewer, and you just like, that's it. That's the end of it. He is evil. He is bad. And then,
Well, that's the biggest heel move you can do. I mean, because everybody loves Zial.
and then they spend like the last half of the last season turning him into the new leader of the rebellion for the Cardassians. Like, wow, way to twist our hearts.
Yeah, I mean, especially, you know, the conversations he had with Kira that basically, you know, almost without saying, pushed him over the edge. That was so profound. You know, I can only imagine being on the opposite end of that conversation.
I love that whole, I call it a 2-part scene, because like there's that scene between her and Damar with the crowd around them, and then there's the like almost the same scene but adjoining scene between her and Garrick, where Garrick's like, or where she's like, that was stupid, I shouldn't have said that, and Garrick's like, no, he needed to hear that.
That was the douse of cold water he needed.
Yeah, this is the one time in his life where he actually heard you.
Yeah.
I was,
like you said, he had a romantic view of the past, you know. He kind of romanticizes what happened during the occupation of Aethor, which, you know, it's pretty intense.
absolutely it is.
Well, that and Kira in a Starfleet uniform was pretty cool too.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like seeing Troy in an actual uniform. Just like,
yeah, at first I was like,
it's about
damn you,
time.
Edward Jellicoe. Oh, wait a minute. No.
It's better. It's better.
No more diving necklines. We're good.
Yeah, like, it's better. Honestly, the uniform was more complimentary to her body than anything they had put her in before.
Very true.
I won't say anything they put her in after, because we got to see her in a bathing suit in Voyager. So
no complaints.
You know,
no,
there's
I'm not going
that.
to complain there. It was like the Ryza episode, you know, with Jadzia and Worf going to Ryza.
Yep, fanfare episode. That's actually one of my more favorite episodes because of that what were they called? The Fundamentalist or whatever?
Yeah.
Like,
and Worf gets caught up with them.
And the reason why I love that is because it is a modern narrative. Like, because you've got like Jadzia and Ryza, they're more all on the much more liberal side of things, and the fundamentalists are obviously much more on the conservative side. And at the end of the episode, like, at least for me, you know, it's subjective because everybody will have their own take on it. But for me, it just points out that both are wrong and you have to find a middle ground. And that's one of the reasons I love Star Trek, because it's cerebral, and it's not like they didn't give you an answer at the end of that episode, which one was right or which one was wrong. That's why I love Star Trek. You have to make the decision.
Kind of ambiguous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's very, very true on that one. Especially, you know, like I said, it kind of many ways that is how it does kind of play into today. Like if they were to release that show right now, I mean, I think
Oh, they'd be
One,
cancel culture.
yeah, right. Oh man, can't do nothing right anymore.
No, they'd be done because they'd be labeled racist on one side, they'd be labeled conservative on the other side, and from the other side they'd be called liberals. Like,
Yeah.
everybody would cancel them because they didn't say one thing good about everybody or about
Oh, I
one
mean, that's
party
kind of,
only.
well, it's kind of like how it is now. I mean, you have like Star Trek that's trying to pander to let's just say a wider audience. You know, there was a time where I appreciated that, because I remember when I was younger. Hang on one second.
No problem.
I'm sorry about that.
It happens. It happens all the time. I have a 6-year-old who loves to do that.
I was like, not right now, dude. Just come back later. You know, when I'm done.
Yep.
But no, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the people who have passed. I know they put it towards the end, but I mean, why not talk about it right now?
Right.
They mentioned Iggy Pop, who just passed away. Michael Piller, who was like one of the biggest writers and producers of Star Trek: The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine.
Wasn't he brought on after one of their, like, because Deep Space Nine was one of the only people to accept script ideas from outside of the studio? Isn't that how they found him?
Yeah, they actually in Next Generation they did. They took open stuff, and he came on after the second season, after all that debacle that happened behind the scenes with like Maurice Hurley and Gene Roddenberry, losing his faculties at that time. In the first and second season of Next Generation. So when Rick Berman took over after the third season, he had his two right-hand people, which was Jerry Taylor and Michael Piller. Jerry Taylor went on to do Star Trek Voyager, and after that, Michael Piller went on to do Deep Space Nine. And then after that, they had guys like Brandon Braga and stuff like that step up to helm Voyager and then Enterprise.
I think Enterprise also plays better today than it did when it was original. Like, not all of it, because there are parts of it that are just probably shouldn't have been made, like the intro.
Yeah, I watched Broken Bow when it came out, and that was it. I didn't watch anything else after that. I know that if you go back and watch it, there's certain arcs in that show that you really have to binge, like the Zindi arc and stuff like that, where it's like it's a good thing that it did come out on streaming later on,
Well, see, my problem with the new shows is that they feel like the last few... Okay, no. I have to throw my childhood under the bus. They don't feel like the last few seasons of Voyager. They feel like Voyager. And I don't mean that, like, contextually wise or what's in the episodes, but more of the fact that in Voyager, especially during the last couple of seasons, almost every single episode was a TNG ripoff.
Yeah.
Of a TNG episode. And that's that's how I feel Discovery has been like, let's go into the future, let's do this, let's do that, except for there's a problem here. That's all already been done on Star Trek.
And then not only that, but they've actually discussed it on the Star Trek First Contact commentary. Braga and Moore sit there and actually talk about how and that's why Braga did Enterprise, is because he was tired of the same linear story involved with that. But the problem is that the concepts and stuff like that, you can't, because there's hundreds of episodes of this television show, and to not redo something, I imagine that's got to be a bear.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that they actually did pretty well. Like, not perfectly. I can name a few episodes that were almost rip-offs of Enterprise, but they did pretty darn well on Enterprise, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, they had a clear field to work with.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, some people think that the temporal Cold War wasn't a great arc, and I agree on the sole basis that it wasn't long enough, therefore it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, they could have really stretched that out quite a bit. I think they were trying not to be constrained by serialization at that point. Still, they were fighting it.
That was a mistake. They should from the first episode, they basically introduce you to the temporal Cold War. They should have stuck with it, like mainlined that stuff, and had like 3 episodes a season that didn't deal with it, and they would have had 7 seasons, guarantee you.
Well, I mean, like the whole Suliban thing fell flat. It really did. So I mean, the serialization that they used in the last, like, let's say 3 seasons of Deep Space Nine, I'd say it was perfect. It's exactly like you said. They would tell the story, but in between they would have little episodes like Little Green Men, where they go back to Roswell, and it's
a great episode.
It's just a funny episode that kind of takes your mind off of what's going on at the time, because things were starting to heat up between the Dominion and everybody else. Episodes like that, you're cordially invited, where they actually get married. Stuff like that gave it heart. Take Me Out to the Holosuite. I know it's like not one of the things, but I love baseball, and the best part of it is I think it's Jake that's wearing a San Francisco Giants hat. That's my team. So yeah. So I mean, and not only that, but the Giants references throughout that show. I mean, I love it. The episode where they go back in time and Michael Dorn's wearing, a Giants uniform. So I mean, being a Giants fan and being a baseball fan, it really that I love that part, just the whole bit.
And they
were called the Niners.
I want to try and get one of the Niners hats made. Because
that'd be super
you can't really buy them, so I want to get somebody to make it to screen spec. But one of the things that I really liked about Deep Space Nine is the super long arcs that are happening in the background. Like, one of the most underrated arcs contains the best acting I have ever seen in my life, and that is I don't remember the exact name of the episode. It's the Benny episode, the 1953 episode. That episode, like, there's a whole arc behind that, and most people even watch Deep Space Nine completely miss the arc. They don't understand the arc, but that arc goes through the entire series. Like,
yeah, they retouch on it in the 7th season in the beginning, where he's like in the mental institution, and then it continues on to the end where he basically becomes one with the prophets. So, and I also, one of the things they talked about on that show was religion. And it was the only Star Trek show that actually had religion in it, which was a really big change of pace, considering Gene Roddenberry's views on religion and stuff like that. He was a secular humanist, so I mean, complete dichotomy change on that one.
Yeah, I respect them 100% for putting it in there. I myself am not religious, but I think it was very short-sighted of Gene Roddenberry to not outlaw it, but to refuse to have it in Star Trek.
Be dismissive of it.
Yeah, because your Federation, your Starfleet, your whatever, they don't have religion. It is not their core. It's not in them. That's fine. They are not the only people in the dang galaxy.
This is very true. I mean, even the Klingons have a mythos to them. I mean, that's why Worf understood Kira a lot, because he was like, well, no, if he's strong of faith, he can do it, and that doesn't exist to the other people because they don't know,
And, like, on that same coin, that's the same reason why I think it's very juvenile for anyone, including Roddenberry. And I have the utmost respect for Roddenberry, but I think it's very, very juvenile for anybody to say that there's no war in Star Trek. Because it's the same reason.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's okay for humans as a whole and the Federation as a whole to not endorse war and not want to be a part of it. But that does not mean that when push comes to shove, we're not going to defend ourselves. We're not going to do
We're
what's
just gonna roll over.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're not going to do what's morally right by us. There's a big asterisk there.
The thing is, it's like I think I was saying before, the Enterprise itself, in my opinion, especially during the Next Generation, was that beacon. It was that thing of freedom and stuff. Oh, we got some people in the chat now.
Yep, Mike's in there.
It was, but it was that beacon of hope in a sea of darkness. But the fact that Starfleet would just turn the other cheek when the Dominion's at their door just doesn't make any damn sense to me.
The Dominion was only at their door because they wouldn't, respect borders, sovereign borders.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's okay. It's the Dominion. The Dominion's aggressive. Don't worry about it. We just, we're Starfleet. We're good. We're just gonna cross into their territory after being very sternly notified to stay out of Dominion territory and then not expect a war. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Nah. And honestly, it says right there, Star Trek is best when it's just two gunboats. And Wrath of Khan.
Mm-hmm.
Just that whole Nebula scene there. I mean, it basically summed it up. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, who doesn't want to see explosions in their science fiction? I mean, come on now.
I mean, my favorite Star Trek movie of all time is First Contact, and I would have been completely content if that first battle scene with the Borg was, 45 minutes long.
Yeah, I'd taken it.
I would have been fine with that.
Yeah, I'd have lined up in the theater just to see it again.
That was the first Star Trek movie I ever saw in theaters, and I am better for it.
Same here. I got into, by the time I was fully into Star Trek, it was until Generations was almost a distant memory. So, and it was okay. It was okay.
I mean, okay, so as I've grown older, the movie Generations has more implications and more resonance with me now. When I was younger, it really it doesn't tick the box when you're younger, and it just doesn't. But now that I'm older and I understand the world more, like I can see Sauron's side, or however you say his name. I can see his side of it. I can see the trouble that Kirk would have, trying to leave it, and even Picard having trouble trying to leave it. Actually, I think it would be cool if they brought the Nexus back in Star Trek Picard. That would be a good arc.
Well, yeah, not only that would be a good vessel. The thing I would love to see what they put down in that writer's room come to fruition in some sense. I think if they were to bring in, because Cisco's still out there. He's not gone.
He's very eccentric nowadays, but yes, he's still out there.
I think that the actor, I don't think he would actually be down to do it. But man,
actually, that's one thing. I don't think you're right on that. I think that Avery Brooks would be down to do it. I just don't know if he would be up for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't, I'm not personally connected to him. I only see what I see, out there in the ether of the internet. So whatever. But from what I have seen over the last 5 to 7 years, he seems a bit more eccentric than he did back then.
yeah, just a little. But no, I mean, I that just to see that. Okay, that's why, in essence, I like Picard. I just want to see that story carried on. And I'm to the point in my life now where all I care about is sitting back and just show me something. You know what I mean? Let me see something. So when it came to,
I've got two for you: Star Trek 7 and Star Trek Kim.
Yeah.
Because Harry never got a good shot, and he's the one person that at this point in like his career, if he would have kept going, he would have made captain a few years ago, and he'd still be captain. So like he's perfect for a hero ship role right now.
Well, yeah, and
Garrett Wong.
Give me Janeway a little bit. I mean, Kate Mulgrew with her being in Orange Is the New Black. I mean, that really sparked her career up. So I mean, I think they'd be kind of foolish to not tap into that. I mean, they already brought 7 of 9 back. I mean, what the hell?
Right, and I mean, I think there's actually, since they brought 7 back in Picard, I think there's actually, and I haven't watched all of Picard yet, but I think there's a much stronger case for bringing her back with her own independent series, because they've kind of already set it up that way, at least to the point where I've seen. Like, it would be really easy to transition into a Star Trek 7 series.
I'd get behind that. Especially, I mean, the way they have her set up is pretty kind of intriguing, as far as, you know, kind of like a space ranger kind of thing. I mean, that would be kind of cool to explore a little bit, or maybe a little bit of backstory into how she got into that. I mean, I know like Icheb getting his eyeball ripped out, but I don't think that's you know, it's no Luke Skywalker killing Kylo moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's another idea I had when they first announced Picard. Something that I thought that they should do is, okay, so the first season is called Star Trek Picard. The next season is called Star Trek 7. The next season is called Star Trek Worf. The next you know, you just bounce around. Every season follows another one of the characters that we grew up with and that we lived with for so long, and it shows us where they are in this current landscape. So you get this full season, awesome. And then they arch all together, and then like maybe, you know, 4 or 5 or 6 seasons in, if everybody's still around, you get them all together on screen. You know, they've all done cameos. You get them all together on screen for one go, like one episode, and then done. Like, that would have been the perfect execution for something like this.
One of my favorite episodes of Picard was when they landed on the planet with Riker and Troy. I mean, I
haven't seen
the
it
fact
yet.
that they, I don't want to
getting
spoil
there.
But the fact that they're still together after all those years, I mean, that says something. Especially with, you know, it's in vogue to split people up over time.
Mike, I can't tell you if you're trolling or not with that last one. It's funny, Roddenberry didn't want war in his TV series, but war is all around in real life. What if he showed more and we got less wars? We have less carjackings now that we have GTA.
Yeah, I suppose so.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's not the 80s anymore. That's true.
Well, I mean, I think about the 80s. I mean, they had a therapist on the bridge of the Enterprise.
Ugh.
A therapist.
Yeah, and those are now rampant, so yeah, maybe this theory doesn't hold water, Mike. So I've got to play the fan service for all the Deep Space Nine fans. It's gonna start right now.
Have dinner together or not?
And if we do, then what?
I don't know. Maybe we could go dancing.
And after that, I suppose you'll expect me to kiss you.
Well, it's possible.
But then who needs dinner? Why don't I just get it over with and kiss you right now?
Well, why don't you?
Greatest moment ever.
It was the culmination of like everything, the entire Odo like character development. This was the moment, the culminating moment.
Oh, and it was right after the whole thing with the Dominion being on the station and stuff like that, and they just liberated it. You know, so it was such a happy moment, and then on top of it to have that moment for the fans. I mean, it was freaking amazing.
And they had just gone through that really rough time in their friendship / relationship, whatever, where he was the enemy, but he wasn't the enemy, but he was the enemy, and he was
collaborating
sleeping
with the Dominion.
Yeah, Yeah, so
shacking up with the female changeling.
it was a really, really good scene. The one thing that bugs me, and I didn't notice this till the documentary, so I'm gonna play it one more time, but this time with a little less volume. I'm gonna play it one more time.
Together or not?
So in a minute, you're going to see a Ferengi in Quark's bar door opening, and there's no audio when he drops the cups. You don't hear the cups or the tray hit the ground, and it annoys me. I never noticed it before I saw it in 4K.
Continuity errors already.
No, just copyright errors on YouTube. Because I think that's the 5th one we've got.
Nice.
If you're just joining
For
the
the
stream, it may not be on
Still
VOD
watching.
later.
Hell, Razor Fist did it.
Well, and see, live streams may be different than like videos. If this
Yeah,
was a
pre-recorded
video,
videos.
it'd all get put out at once, no big deal. And then like I just like get a copyright infringement, no big deal.
Yeah, I think they flagged him. They pulled his videos down because he was showing the trailer for the episode. So it was like, next time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. You know.
I agree, Mike. We need more Star Trek shows. And
Yeah.
I have not heard anything because I've refused to actually search, but I hope to God the animated Nickelodeon show got canceled.
No, it's going ahead full steam. Lower Decks. Yeah. Well, it's by the creators of Rick and Morty. I'm not really interested in that. I mean, yes, I try to keep a
It
positive
will
spin on
be
Star Trek.
a
but come
stain
now.
on Star Trek's. You tell me, is it called Star Trek Lower Decks or just Lower Decks?
I think it's called Star Trek Lower Decks, but I know Lower Decks is involved. It'd be interesting if it was just called Lower Decks. I can get behind that.
Yes.
But I guess it's supposed to tie into that episode with the the underlings from Next Generation.
Yeah. And see,
So.
like you, I would be fine with it if it didn't have the name Star Trek associated with it. Because if it does, it's going to taint far beyond what Discovery did. It will taint the Star Trek name.
Well, see, here's the thing. We'll talk about my experience on that one. So everyone has that moment where Star Trek kind of gave him the middle finger, the proverbial middle finger.
Condom.
So
Klingons.
for me, that was back in 2013 with Star Trek Into Darkness. I've discussed it with you before. My problem with that movie it was the same reason why The Last Jedi sucked so much for so many people. It was over speculation. I was in trekmovie.com every day checking updates. And they're like, oh, it's not going to be Khan, not going to be Khan, not going to be Khan. And when they said when he did the turn as Khan, not only did I see it coming, but it made me mad. And like from that moment of the movie on, I'm just like, okay, now what? So when the end of the movie came and, Kirk's, oh, danger, I'm going to go down to the engine room. And he
yeah, we all knew what was going to happen.
To do a nerve pinch on him and say, remember, okay? That was the only thing missing. They just flipped the glass on it. And then when, Spock yelled Khan, I just wanted to get up and leave. So
Yeah.
it gave me time to kind of mellow out against it. I mean, I don't like Star Trek prequels at all. That's why Discovery is like meh to me. Just because I'm done with that time period. I don't want to see anything else. Give me next gen.
I agree. I love the 2300s. Like the 2300s are where it was at in Star Trek. That being said, it being a prequel, like Discovery being a prequel, it has nothing to do why I hate it. Okay.
Well, it just kind of shits all over continuity, to be honest.
That and condom Klingons, not okay. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't like the Klingon orcs either.
And right, I understand having the Klingons speak Klingonese. I get it. But like,
2 phrases and then the rest English. I'm not reading
yes,
subtitles.
yes. Like if I
I
wanted to
agree.
watch a foreign film, I would have gone and watched a foreign film. And then you have the entire first season focus on literally one effing character.
It
No.
wasn't even that good to begin with.
And it was a crap character. Like,
Yeah.
and then lastly, my last problem is that instead of being progressive, it was SJW. Down
Yeah,
your
no,
throat,
that's
SJW.
regressive. Yeah, no, it's
Oh,
a
and
different kind of ideology that they were dealing with then.
I'm sorry, that wasn't my last reason. My very, very last reason is copyright infringement.
Yeah. What was it? Tardigrades?
Yep, the Tardigrades video game from Steam.
Yeah.
Like every
Well,
main
the second
character and everything in the first season, the entire first season, ripped straight out of a game made on Steam. And CBS won the lawsuit saying that that's just core to sci-fi. It's general use. Really? Because then you shouldn't have slapped Annexar with a lawsuit because of copyright, because Star Trek is just core to sci-fi.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like people who make fan films for Star Wars. I mean, that was one thing about George Lucas that I can respect, is he didn't go after people. He actually appreciated it when they did make fan films and stuff like that. So I don't understand why, CBS is so protective of that sort of thing. Hopefully, since the remerger, things will lighten up a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hold my breath.
I'm probably done with Star Trek. That's all I'm saying. Like,
yeah, no, I get it. Like I said, I'm at this point. I'll just give me anything. I'm so jaded about everything else. So just give me like an hour to not be jaded. I'll be happy.
Like
So I have a really low bar.
If you needed ideas, I'm fairly positive that all of STO is still intellectual property of CBS. The game's not, but the stories, the writing, the characters, it's all CBS IP. Therefore, you don't need to go hire a writing team. You have everything you need for new TV right there, sitting in STO.
Yeah.
Like,
just give it to. I like some of the episode missions in that game. It's really fun.
Like the
the
Undine War arc is amazing. And like bringing back the was it the Iconians and everything?
Yeah,
like,
the Iconians.
I
mean,
meshing them all between all the different series, like you mesh TNG episodes into Voyager episodes, into Deep Space Nine episodes, and TOS episodes. Like they linked them all in STO. Just use that, please.
Well, not only that, but they had the cast to come back and do the voices and stuff, like Tim Russ, Garrett Wong, Armin Shimmerman does a bunch of voices in there. Jeffrey Combs came back. I mean, even with the new, I hate to mention it, but they have a new story arc now that has to do with Michael Burnham and the Red Angel and 7 of 9, which isn't horrible, but I mean, it's better than what they put on the screen.
I haven't played any of the new seasons for probably 3 years, 2-3 years. So
Gotcha. They have a discovery arc where you start off as a cadet and then you move up through. I did that on my 50 subscriber special.
I watched
I just
it.
started a character in discovery and just kind of went from there. I don't know. The second season of the show wasn't too bad. I mean, Anson Mount playing Pike was really good. I liked the portrayal of Spock. I think he did a pretty decent job. So, I mean, I'm interested in seeing what they're going to do for the third season. But, I mean, I can understand where people are coming from if they're fresh off the middle finger from Discovery. So.
And Mike asks, what if they made a spinoff like The Mandalorian? The problem with that... And he says, like, have it not on a starship. Okay, so the problem with that is, I can see that working as long as it's a human. As long as it centers around humans. Like, people have tried to pitch, like, Klingon or Romulan shows or whatever.
I would be interested.
Yeah, the majority of the audience is not going to be interested in a non-human show, non-human centric.
That's mighty racist of them, if you really think about it.
Speciesist.
Speciesist.
Yeah, point of fact, there's no such thing as racism because it's not racism. We're all the same race. We're the human race. It's called cultural bias, not racism.
Yeah.
One race, the human race. Sorry to go political on you.
No, it's like Brock Peters and why he had such a hard time in Star Trek 6. He played Admiral Cartwright. I mean, he basically had to, be racist towards the Klingons. So I mean, I can understand why he didn't want to do some of the stuff, or he had a hard time doing some of the stuff. But I love how he came back as Joseph Sisko. I mean, the episodes where he goes, well, when they go back to New Orleans and stuff like that, and anything that has to do with cooking and stuff, it kind of gave me my love of culinary too. I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Me too, definitely. And that's actually another one of my highlight episodes is Homefront Part 1 and 2. When Starfleet security needs to test his blood to see if he's a changeling, and he just outright refuses. And there's this whole big scene between him and Captain Sisko, and I think Jake's there too, and Starfleet security, and he just won't do it. And then he ends up cutting his hand with a knife while he's cooking in front of Captain Sisko. And the look on Sisko's face when his dad sees his face, he's floored because Sisko actually thought his real dad was a changeling.
Well, I mean, in Sisko's defense, it would be a likely possibility. I mean, knowing that he's a target and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean, his dad made a really good point. Don't you think the first thing I would have done if I would have had a modicum of intelligence as a changeling would have been to go and kill some human and drain their blood and just have it sitting around inside me to release on command?
Yeah, no.
And that line right there had me more convinced that he was a changeling than anything that had happened before that. Because to me, I'm always thinking about the double reversals and the chess game. And if I was a changeling, that's what I would have said. I would have given them how I was doing it to prove that I wasn't it.
Yeah. No, I think that kind of happened with the episode, what was it, The Chase or whatever, where they first get the Defiant and he gets promoted to captain. Not when they first get the Defiant, but when they first get promoted and that changeling assumes the ambassador.
Yeah, the ambassador, and it was the Zenkethi, I believe, they were going towards.
Yeah, and then he was like, or in the search where he's like, no, the only civilizations we're worried about right now are the Klingons and the Federation. So I mean, they really thinned the herd, especially when they did.
Hey, and for the record, we all know that Tuvok is a changeling. It's a fact.
He's Eugene. I've seen it.
Yeah. Because
Species 8472.
Yeah, because we know that he can change because he was human in TNG, and then he was also on Sulu's ship, he was on Sulu's ship.
He was also on the Enterprise B.
And Enterprise B, he's a changeling, and that's how the Dominion knew. Or that's how the Dominion knew about the Federation long before, as Wayoon said, long before the Federation ever knew about them, because he was a changeling.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Confirmed.
He was running recon.
Yep.
Stories. End of discussion.
Hey, Tom might be one too. Half that ship might be changelings.
This is very true. They could have switched, and that's why the caretaker didn't want no part of them.
Right? So, I think we just passed an hour a couple minutes ago. So, I'm going to play the big scene. Michael, you better be ready for this, because this is the big one. This is the one the video is going to get shown.
It's a good closing arc. God, that looks so crisp.
Can we shake the other three?
I'm trying.
We've lost our shields. Forward shields are down to 15%.
Wouldn't this be a good time to cloak?
The cloaking system's fried.
Auxiliary
Terry
power
Pearl's
to
good.
weapons. We're going to fight our way out of this.
How long was she on?
2-3 years, something like that. Show didn't last very long.
It didn't
I think
feel
she
like
got
it was that long.
I think she replaced Major Travis on the show.
It's the Klingons, sir.
Or got
They're
replaced
here.
by Major Travis. I
Captain,
don't know.
the Klingons have broken a hole in the Dominion lines.
Dax, can you get us through?
I'd love to try.
She had a very Denise Crosby vibe.
Uh-oh. I got copyright warning. The clip's not even over yet. There we
This
go.
stream is unavailable.
Did it actually go stream unavailable?
No,
Okay.
not yet.
Well, I've been trying to space them out, so, and like I didn't even play all the ones that I had, because like I had the
I think
Avery
we're trying to
Brooks book.
promote their content. You know what I mean? It's like, go check this out.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow I'll never understand. It's like free advertising for you guys.
Yeah, like if I was showing the whole movie or something.
Well,
That's-
yeah, then I'd get a little pissy about it.
Yeah.
But no, we're talking about it. I mean, we're being passionate about it. I mean, honestly, all I want to do now is sit there and binge the first season of DS9.
Exactly. And presumably you're gonna have to watch that on. You've either already paid and bought the DVDs. You're gonna have to, pay Netflix, who is paying CBS. You're gonna have to pay Amazon or somebody else who's already paying CBS.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you're just driving them to content at that point, right?
yeah, stop with the copyright infringements, yo. Like
That's right.
the stream's been an hour and 7 minutes. I played like, I don't know, 5 minutes of content, maybe 7.
Yeah. It's less than 20% of the whole body of work, right?
Exactly. I was a little sketched out with having it almost full screen. I made it not quite full screen, and I left the logos up just so it'd be,
Yeah. Somewhat watermarked.
Yeah. Exactly. The first one's free. Now you're addicted. Go watch the documentary on Amazon. And with that, I think we'll play the outro. So thanks for joining us today, Brian. If you haven't checked out Brian's channel, again, he's Brian Hill, Master of None. His links are in the description. Thanks for all of you for being here. And Brian, if you want to give a little lead out.
Yeah. Like you said, my channel is Brian Hill, Jack of all trades, the master of none. I talk about everything. Right now, it's mostly just been Star Trek because everything else is a little slow. I do a little bit of Star Wars. Once sports gets up and running again, I've been looking to do maybe a little bit of car talk. So, like I said, just a little bit of everything.
Sounds good, man. Do you have anything coming up on your channel in the near future?
In particular, I going back to work this week, so I work a lot, so just trying to fit in video time to do videos and stuff like that. But I do have something in the works though.
Cool. Well, look forward to seeing that. But with that, thanks for showing up to Priority One Transmission for its first ever episode. Have a good night, guys.
Absolutely.
And I failed to click the right button for the outro.
What I want to know is, out of all the stories you told me, which ones were true and which ones weren't?
My dear doctor, they're all true.
Even the lies.
Especially the lies.